Hello guys, and welcome to Culture Talks episode number 13. We are once again joined by the wonderful Ruth Young, and Ruth Young is from Ruthless Media NI, and she's a fantastic social media expert who helps many businesses to portray their business online and attract new customers and hopefully engage with new marketplaces. We were delighted, Ruth, to chat to you last week, and that's why it was, I suppose, so much more to talk about. That's why we decided, right, screw it, we're going to have another Culture Talks with you, and we absolutely love talking to you. We're really good friends with you anyway, as you know, and I suppose we just wanted to pick up from where we left off and to give people hopefully a few more tips and hints on how they can improve their social media. Sean, do you want to kick us off with even just...
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on again. Great to have you on for another conversation. I think this time we were talking, it'd be nice to sort of get more into the practical end of things. Maybe looking at businesses who are only starting out in social media, and it could be quite a minefield. I know I was never great at it, I'm still not going to say I am, but it is difficult when you start off to know where you actually begin, what platforms to use. And you had a post on there on LinkedIn recently talking about that exact subject. So if we can get maybe a bit of information for new businesses starting out, or businesses who just haven't utilised their social media up to this point.
Yeah, and you know what? These past few months with lockdown and all the rest of it, there's probably been a lot of new businesses who've been sort of rising to the surface, and a lot of people who maybe have had sidelines that they're looking to push a bit more while they were on furlough or whatever, you know. So it's been a really busy time for people trying to set up new business, and we really need to encourage new businesses at a time like this. You know, when everything is getting back on its feet again. Unfortunately, we're seeing some businesses closing, and we want to support them too if we can, to stay open as long as they can. But social media will be a really important tool for everybody going forward. And thinking about people setting up and getting started. Yes, I put a post out about which platform, and that's probably the first question I'm asked by any new business. Which platform do I need to be on? Because there's so many, and so many of them think, if I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything, you know, I'll cover everybody, and then it'll be great. I'll have all this business. But sometimes that means that you're running yourself too thin, you're doing too much, or else you're just replicating the same content on every platform, and you're not interacting appropriately with the people who are on those platforms already. So just before this video, I was getting a TikTok made for my own business, and that's a very different message to the post that I would have put onto LinkedIn yesterday about which platform. But it's essentially a similar message, you know. It's a different piece of content. So when it comes to new businesses thinking about which platforms to be on, there's three things that I sort of ask them to consider. Firstly, who is your target audience? What do they look like? Are they a particular age, particular geography, particular interests? And do they prefer sort of more visual sort of stuff, or do they prefer a lot of writing? Do they prefer video stuff? And I know all platforms tend to have a mixture of those things, but some more so than others. So Instagram's obviously a very visual thing with photo and a bit of video as well. But trying to think of which platform is going to be right in terms of the audience is the first thing. Second thing would be oh gosh, I forgot the word now. I'll go to the third thing then. So the third thing is really which platform you prefer to use yourself, you know. So maybe it's relating to people who are of a similar mindset to yourself, and maybe you find that you use Facebook a lot and you're comfortable using Facebook, and maybe that's where you need to be. But then maybe your target audience is like, let's just say for you guys, maybe your target audience, which it isn't by the way, is new parents, right?
Yeah.
So LinkedIn maybe isn't the right place to find a lot of new parents. You can still find new parents, but thinking about something like Facebook or Instagram where you can do that sort of relational side of things. So thinking about you know, where you're comfortable, and sometimes maybe pushing your comfort zone a little bit as well. That was the other thing. Don't spread yourself too thin. Don't do every platform. Try and focus on one or two and do them really, really well. Sorry for the noise in the background, by the way.
It's usually Sean's video.
Yeah. Oh dear. He's probably just telling me, no, that's wrong, Mum. But anyway, a few other things to consider is your branding. because you want to try and get that strong from the very start,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that you're comfortable with, what the company name is going to be. If you can get that right from the start, it means you can get that uniformity across the names and the platforms as well that you are on, across your website. You've got your corporate identity all tied together, and it's not looking too bitsy then. So for example, I'm going to take my own. I know I have the same across all of them, but say I was on Instagram as Ruthless Media,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was on Facebook as Ruthless NI, and then I was on LinkedIn as Ruthless Media Services or something. It doesn't tie everything all together. So if you can get a good name for the company that's going to tie in really well across all platforms, and you've got that presence across each of them that you use, but then also thinking about your brand image and where that's going to tie it all together as well. So those are probably 4 big things to consider when you're starting out, to try and start off on a good foot. And I have been talking to a couple of people recently who are maybe in business about 4 or 5 months, and they're already thinking, maybe I need to change my company name, and it's not a bad time to do that, and trying to make it broad but specific at the same time, at that sort of early stage of business. And there are businesses who obviously change their name years down the line,
Yeah.
or change the name of product years down the line and have to rebrand the whole thing. But if it's something that you can get set at the very start, it's going to save you a lot of other battles on down the line too.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things we actually done at the start as well there with our logo in the beginning, because we just wanted something that looked good at the start, and we got something we thought it did look good, but we kind of went, there's not enough meaning behind it. We wanted to share more about our brand within our logo, and that's why we went with the logo. We see it behind JP there.
Yep.
But it's about sort of having people together and creating the sort of ripple effect, and that's what we want to put out as our brand on social media, show people that this is part of what we do.
Your brand at the same time is very much the two of you.
Yeah.
So while you've got your logo, you've still got that very strong brand identity of it's JP and Sean, or Sean and JP. But people recognize that your core impact as well as the logo that stands behind you,
Yeah.
And we very much focus that, Ruth, on LinkedIn at the minute, but see if we were going to another platform, do you think that would work just as well? Like Facebook, for example?
If you took the time to build that platform and build your credibility on that platform as well, to engage with the network that's there and the audience that's there as well. You've already done it on LinkedIn, so it's something that you can also do on another platform, but you would just need to tweak slightly how you do it and the type of content you put out on that platform then.
Yeah, it's kind of like a feel it out type scenario, isn't it? Like, because you hear a lot of people, especially when you're starting out, and they say, "What's your target market? What's your target market?" And I mean, for us, for the longest time, even up until recently, our attitude was everyone, because what we're talking about is people, and but you do need to become more strategic in your approach, because you can try and catch all the raindrops, but you're not going to catch them all. You focus on one sort of area, and you will gather momentum, as you say. And so for us, what we started doing was we started actually reaching out to SMEs, but we recognized then you kind of needed to have, usually we would say, more than about 15 people, employees wise, in the organization. Above 12, but ideally 15 and up. And that's because from our perspective, we would be saying the lines of communication become blurred after that sort of 12 to 15 people, because this person said that and that person said this, and that's usually where the internal politics of the organization start arising a little bit, and momentum and motivation can drop. So suppose before we're coming on, we were chatting, I was saying that I'd seen a post about a new business, and were saying that they were having issues with recruiting new people. And I suppose the tips you've given there, if that person were to listen to this, it would probably massively help them in terms of trying to attract new people. I suppose it says a bit about the culture of the organization, I suppose, when you say you're having to take new people on, because bringing new people on is fantastic, but if you're losing people out the back door, that's where, from our perspective, that's where we can help. I suppose that's why maybe when you work in tandem, like for us, obviously we have a brilliant relationship with you. I know that we've passed contacts on to you, and you've passed contacts on to us, and that's why anyone who's a freelancer, as for lack of a better way of describing it, you can definitely work in tandem. But LinkedIn has been massive for us, I think. I can honestly say that the value that we have taken, Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but direct business that we've got from LinkedIn because of our personal platforms. Because obviously LinkedIn's an individual thing. We do have a core impact page. I wouldn't say we get a lot of traction on our LinkedIn page, but I think it's always good to direct people back to it. And I know you were inviting people to like the page there. And have you, in your experience, Ruth, would you say LinkedIn from your business page perspective is there a specific type of content to put out from that? Now, my understanding would normally be a wee bit more official because it's a bit more the brand, as you say. Whereas we would be putting a bit more personal up. Do you have any tips for that?
So, I mean, for like a LinkedIn company page, it tends to be the company information and the company message, and maybe it's company updates and all of that. You can still sort of showcase employees or things that employees are doing, but then your personal LinkedIn, and that's where I get a lot more of my value over the company page. You know, I get much more on the personal side of things where you're building relationships and getting to know people and just intentionally, you know, building that network. Whereas I think with the company page, it's a bit less easy to do, because you don't have that person-to-person interaction. It feels a bit stuffier or something sometimes. But in terms of the personal content, then I kind of focus on things that I'm learning or I'm developing or thoughts that I'm having, but I wouldn't necessarily put those onto the company page then. So there's like two different sets of content. And then, I mean, you think of like, go to Facebook as well, it's a different piece of content there, you know, so it's kind of focusing on, you know, what's the benefit to people and what's the here's some hints and tips and all the rest of it. So it's slightly different messages on each thing. And like you say, it's even different between the company page and the personal page, so it's just going to change every time. Then
you've definitely given me something to think about, actually, just as you're saying that about the company page, because I suppose a lot of people who are going to have company pages, I'd probably say the majority of people, especially in Northern Ireland, like they're going to be somebody who either runs their business themselves, or like us, there's maybe 2, 3, 4 of us. So you're going to have direct ownership on that page. And I find that, because as you know, and anyone who's watching this, if you really do put your time and effort into your social media platforms, it's more than a full-time job. Like, you know, it's something that needs to be a living, breathing thing. You need to be constant with it, needs to be fresh. So for us, a lot of times, I think we maybe fall into the trap of just sharing what we've done on our personal page. And I think it would be, what you've said there about showcasing, I think it would be hard from an ego perspective, because you're afraid of coming across like you've got an ego. If you were to say, this is Sean, and this is what Sean's all about, and this is his personal profile on the core impact page. But from other people's perspective, you need to get out of that mindset, because from their perspective, they don't know you and they come across natively to your platform, your page, your business page. They might not know who Sean is, and they may just say, oh, that's interesting, that's a different dynamic, and it kind of maybe provides more of a window into the culture of the business, you know. So that's, maybe you're giving me something to think about here. I'm going to start writing things down.
Fair enough, it's inspiring.
That's sort of part of your saying about LinkedIn as well. Like, one of the things that we've found in terms of using it as a social media platform as well is that it's been a support network for us too. So I know we've been able to sort of showcase ourselves to potential customers. The amount of friends that we've built up through it, and the amount of support we've had and advice that we've taken from people has been outstanding. Like, that really shocked me whenever we actually get into it, because we were on LinkedIn, I think, for probably 2 years before really starting to actually properly interact on it. And once you start building up that kind of, I suppose, close relationships, and I think here we all kind of know each other on LinkedIn, and you nearly assume that everything you put a post on, everybody knows everything about you, but you forget you're trying to hit a new audience sometimes as well.
Yeah, and you know, I sometimes see people, like Louise Morrow had posted last week or earlier this week, you know, here's a photo of me just introducing myself because there's new followers, and we sometimes forget that, you know, we think that everyone has seen all of our content the whole time, and even the people who have been with us for a long time have seen all of our content every day or whatever. So we sometimes just need to think about adding those extra layers on, and you know, reminding and, you know, revisiting some content again and again, you know. And it may sound a bit like a stuck record, but there are ways to revisit content and also keep it fresh. So
absolutely, yeah. I remember going to I think it was, God, I can't remember where it was, but I was at a talk anyway, and somebody was chatting about social media, and they were saying like you can make hundreds of pieces of content from like one piece of content, and you can do it over multi-platforms, and and I was going, God, I'd never really thought of it that way. I never really thought of like sort of regurgitating it. Well, that's how I would have probably perceived it, but really it's not. It's actually, you're just telling a story in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we have found that in a couple of different things, like whether it's our platform and the content we're putting out, or just the content that we create for our clients. Like there are so many different, like we were chatting about public tenders before we hit record, and when we started learning about case studies, for instance, like your experience, what have you done? And we started learning actually, based on our knowledge, we were going, well, we worked in one place for a long period of time, and the mentor for us was going, but you could tell a million stories and case studies based on the projects, the experience, the people you've worked with, the recruitment drives. And we were going, crap, that's actually quite true. And it could be a completely different story from one to the other. I suppose that sort of makes me think of, because you mentioned there, obviously, if you're starting out and this is where four really good tips you've given there of, this is kind of a way of where to look, how to do it, and things you can start off. But if you're an organization who maybe, and you can, I don't want you to give away all your secrets, but if there was an organization who maybe have been online for a while, that probably aren't getting much engagement, and they don't really know where to go from here. They maybe have a few different platforms on the go, and what advice would you give to somebody like that if they feel like they're kind of stuck in the mud a wee bit?
Well, there's quite a few things you can consider there. Firstly, content. I mean, is the content getting too samey? Is it too repetitive, or is it not really what the target audience needs to hear? Because sometimes when we create content, we create it as if we're talking to people who are just like us, and they understand everything that we're talking about. But let's go back to the idea of, you're wanting to target young parents. Maybe you're selling buggies or something, maybe you're not a young parent. You don't know, what exactly a benefit of having a buggy is going to make. You're not going to talk in the language that they're going to respond to.
Yeah.
So thinking about your content to start with, is it actually engaging and targeting and relating to who your audience is going to be?
Yeah.
And then that also comes back to that question that we talked about earlier. You don't necessarily know your target audience sometimes. We don't think about it. So like, everybody needs water, right? But not everybody's going to buy bottled water. Sometimes people are going to have like a sports bottle and they'll fill it up with the tap, and maybe sometimes people are just going to have a glass of water, and they'll just drink that way. So yeah, so while everybody needs water, not everybody's our target audience, and maybe there's an age difference as well in terms of that. So who specifically is going to buy maybe a sports bottle of water over like a screw top bottle of water? So there are ways we need to intentionally think about our target audience. That's a really, really important thing. And then the other thing to consider is your consistency of your content. Are you one of those people who's sort of putting out stuff once a month, maybe every 3 months, or is it like 3 or 4 times a week, or or maybe you've posted once and then left it for 3 or 4 weeks and then posted 3 things, so what's the consistency with the content and how it's relating to your audience and so on.
Yeah.
And then I suppose as well, like we've touched on it as well in terms of LinkedIn, but it's the same on a lot of platforms. How much are you engaging with other people's content, and building that two-way street? Because quite often people think they're going to just put content out there, people will respond to it, they'll all flock to my shop and they'll buy everything. But we need that reciprocity, and that's a really powerful thing on social media, on any social media platform. And I'm not saying to just follow other people for the sake of getting your audience going, but engaging and supporting each other can help to raise your visibility to other audiences then as well. And there are other things that you can do in terms of paid campaigns and all the rest of it as well. But those are probably some really basic things to consider in terms of boosting your engagement and boosting actually getting the sale at the end of the day from a customer, or getting more people through the door or whatever.
Yeah.
So that kind of engagement, like that's one of the things recently that stood out to me. I had added on LinkedIn one of the Dragons and Dragons den. think it's Razia, something like that you call him. But see, when I looked at through all of his posts, like he had a lot of comments, but every single one of them responded to. I kind of thought that was really good for someone who's getting, like, he could have someone else responding to him. I don't know how it operates. But for me, looking at that, I thought that's excellent. That's really good that he's actually interacting with all the people on the platform. Because there's times there when you see people who aren't writing back the comments, and I would kind of look at that and think, I'm not going to write a comment on that because of even looking at it. You know, it kind of puts you off. So I think that engagement is really important.
Yeah, it's like people are people, because it always goes back to that idea: people buy from people, people build relationship with people. And Sean, you make a really good point, because there's been times when I've maybe really looked up to someone's content. Not that I need to get some sort of, oh, I need to get a reply or a like. It's not like that. But I think that the incentive to continue interacting with people's posts or content kind of drops a little bit when you don't feel, like Sean says, that somebody's looking at it. It's not a real living, breathing thing. It's because then it's not really a person. You lose that connection, and therefore you're kind of going, are they just throwing stuff out there? Like, surely, you know, there's been times where I'm really impressionable. So if I like a piece of content, or I see something online, or it's an event, for instance, right? I'm more likely to click and buy a ticket for an event if I feel like it's an authentic post someone's put out and said, this is my post. If I feel like it's a targeted thing and it's just dropped in the inbox and it's impersonal, and that's where I suppose there's a fine line. And Ruth, you make some really good points there about consistency. And one of the big things we learned we were trying to portray our culture as Core Impact, and we were trying to portray this is who we are. And I've seen posts in the past where some people say LinkedIn's a professional platform, you shouldn't be putting any personal stuff on there. And you know, maybe at one time that was true, but I believe, like Sean mentioned, I believe that there was a period of time where we kind of went on there, you wouldn't have seen anything that resonated with us. It was too stuffy. I think that's the way you described it, Ruth. Like you felt as though you were going, don't really resonate with this. I like the content, but I'm not going to go out of my way to start reaching out to that person or that company. Whereas what we started doing was we started sharing our journey, and that was the best way for us to engage with people. And we were a bit afraid, to be honest with you, with some advice that was given to us at the time. I think it might have been Gavin Wall actually at the time. It said, look, put the journey out. People love it. They've all been there and done that. Anyone successful in life has went through a journey, and something will resonate. And I remember Sean, I think it was the first couple of months, we didn't get much at all. And we nearly gave up at one point, and Gavin was going, yeah. And for me, the consistency would be, I felt that I was getting into that idea. I'm not going to lie and say I put a post out every single day. I try to, because it's about keeping that momentum going. And it's honestly changed. I've said this a few times in posts and even messages directly with people, but LinkedIn has been a massive part of our journey. And I know for me personally, it's probably made the journey for me up to this point in terms of entrepreneurship, because some of the people you speak to, yes, you are going to get people who are salesy, and that's okay. You take that with, and sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes you want to buy that content, but at the same time, for me, it's about speaking to somebody who says, I've just come out into business. I was in industry for 30 years and don't know where I'm at now. And, you know, we connected with those types of people so many times, and that is so much value to us. And now we're at a point where I believe we have portrayed the culture of Core Impact and us as people, our personalities, to a point where we've now had people reaching out to us and saying, where do I go from here? And we're still in the first year of our business. You know, we're by no means experts in how to start a business or what to do, and we feel quite lucky. I believe we put ourselves in the position to be lucky. We create luck, but at the same time, it's the people around us. It was the examples of people like you, Ruth, who I know we've got to know you very well, and we know a little bit about your journey and what the fact that you were in full-time work, you stepped out into that, and now your business is blossoming, especially throughout the last period where people are really in need of online help. I think it can just bringing it back to the culture end of things. Social media is that window. It's the way that you can portray it. Yes, you can be a professional. We are all professional in our own right. We're trying to make sure that people see what value we can add to them from a bottom line perspective, where we can save them money and time and whatever. But if you want people to work with you, how do you stand out in this big bad world? And I think that that's one of the ways to do it, being consistent and showing your personality online. you know?
Absolutely. I guess the other thing, and we briefly talked about it before this call, is the analytics that you find behind Facebook, Instagram, any platform really, because those can really give you some good guidance as to where your audience is engaging, and are you actually reaching the right target audience? Are most of your followers, you know, women who are aged 24 to 35, but actually you need to be connecting to men who are 45 to 60 or something, you know? So yes, a lot of that and reviewing that can help to dictate how you push forward and how you develop what you're doing online as well. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff to consider with social media. It's not a straightforward, easy thing, but I suppose like all of us, we've just kind of delved in and we've learned sometimes as we've gone along. And in terms of the content that we've created, sometimes it's been, do you know what, I'll try this and see what happens. And we've been surprised, or we've kind of like, all right, okay, well, that didn't really.
Don't do that again.
I was more impressed with that than anybody else was, but you know, but yeah, just to review what you do and try to hone it for the next time as well.
It's one more thing. I heard a story. Something I want to look into more. Actually, it's only heard a sort of tail end of the story, but it got me thinking a bit more as well about how, like, we talk about target audience, but for me as well as a business, part of your target audience is your team, your own team, because they're watching how you're interacting with your customers, and this is what you want to put across to them, how they should do it. And it was a story. I don't even know how long ago it was, but it was Johnson & Johnson. I don't know. It sounds like it was something a long time ago, but they released some sort of medication at one point. And I think it poisoned people. There was a big sort of national thing, and the FBI and stuff were involved in it. But they were told to basically sort of keep it on the wraps, keep it within a certain area. And they went against everything in terms of media. They were told to keep it within their own city, and the FBI told them to do this. And it would have been their easy option for their shareholders and things like that. But they were saying, no, our priority is our people. So the people that we're serving, the mothers, I think they were taking the medication at the time. So we have a priority to them. And also, what does this say to our team? If we cover this up, what does that tell our team about our honesty and our integrity, our value? And they were talking about basically what we would call now core values. I can't remember what the word was they were using for it at the time, but it was their kind of ethos of how they actually operate. And they're saying, if we do this, we go against our whole ethos, and our companies generally it's going to collapse. And I think from that, they were able to build the company up on a way of actually sort of protecting medications. So it kind of went the opposite direction. It's because they made the right choices on social media.
Yeah, and it's probably making the best of a bad situation in some ways and being honest and open and saying, look, hands up, we made a mistake, but here's what we're going to do to correct it.
Yeah.
But there are companies who are just like, you know what, this has really hit the fan. Let's just, you know, cover this up and not let anybody know, and we'll just put up this big facade and pretend everything's rosy. But yes, you're right. That also feeds into the company and the employees and potential employees as well. You know, as if they were this company who was covering everything up and putting on this front on social media, you know, people think, oh, they look like a really good place to work, and then they get in and it's the complete opposite. You know, so it all goes hand in hand, and you want to work with someone like you guys to make sure the culture is right, but you also want to work with someone who knows their social media to help support you in terms of getting that message right. I didn't want to say that, but yeah. But yeah, it all goes hand in hand in terms of that PR exercise then as well, because your biggest ambassadors are your employees.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And that's, you know, just on it because we don't have you forever, and I know you're busy and you need to move on to your next call and whatever. But for me, it's so important that that's portrayed throughout. Like Sean says, like for us, we used social media when we were back in Odyssey Bowl as a way to showcase the team that we have. And I know even Sean, on your personal profile, one of the things, or was that would have been Odyssey, you put a post up, and it was one of the most engaging posts we'd put up, and it was an engineer working away on a machine, and it's kind of like that behind the like how things are made, you know, like that Discovery Channel sort of video where like people love seeing how it's done. And for me, there could have been somebody who, and in all honesty, we get a lot of people asking us when we were doing recruitment drives, is it just front of house or is there engineering opportunities and whatever? And I think that's one of the ways social media would have, otherwise people wouldn't have even maybe thought of that, you know. But we could go on for ages, and I know our conversations have went on much longer than this in the past. But Ruth, thank you so much for the.
Thank you.
I know, Sean, you're going to do it.
It's great to do these episodes.
I know, and we're absolutely delighted to have you here because, I mean, we're learning as we're chatting to you as well. And
likewise.
And I know you usually charge for these sort of tips, so we'll be promoting this video and making sure people are listening to it. And thank you so much. But just before Sean does the outro, and I know you done it last time, but do you want to give everyone the information of where they can find you if they wanted to reach out?
Right, okay, so Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn mostly. Facebook and Instagram are at Ruthless Media NI, and LinkedIn is Ruth Young. And then finally, you can find me on TikTok if you really want Ruthless Media NI as well. So
yes, definitely.
Right, excellent. Thank you very much. Such an important topic, and I think it does. It links directly into the cultural organisation, as we said. So if anyone does need any support with social media, who's the girl that help you out there. So guys, thanks very much. That's the end of our episode. Now remember, engage, enable, and empower.